The judgment chamber stretched across 5 kilometers of floating black stone. Platforms hovered in perfect formation, suspended above an endless void that dropped into nothing. Light came from nowhere and everywhere at once, casting no shadows on the faces of the 1,400 alien representatives who had gathered for this historic moment. Ambassador David Cole stood alone on the accused platform, a circular disk of cold metal floating in the center of the chamber. There were no railings, no safety barriers. The message was clear to anyone watching. Fall, and you fall forever. Around him, tiers of alien delegates watched from atmospheric pods designed for their specific needs. The Morbrith, beings made of living crystal, hummed with a low resonance that Cole felt in his moans. The Velshi, insectoid creatures wrapped in ceremonial silk, clicked their mandibles in anticipation. The Dramok Collective, serpentine beings with scales that shifted between blue and purple, coiled in their seats with obvious satisfaction. Cole kept his face calm. His gray diplomatic uniform bore the simple insignia of Earth, a blue sphere with a single white star. Humble, understated, exactly what he wanted them to see. Ambassador Cole of Earth, the voice of High Arbiter Navara, echoed through the chamber. The ancient being descended from the highest tier, her form a constantly shifting pattern of geometric shapes that hurt the eyes if you looked too long. You stand before this council accused of crimes against galactic order. Cole said nothing. He had expected this moment for 3 years. The charges are as follows, Navara continued. Unauthorized military expansion in the Outer Rim, territorial claims that violate 17 treaties, and most seriously, the suspected development of forbidden technology. A wave of angry murmurs swept through the chamber. The Dramok High Chancellor, a massive serpent named Vorthus, uncoiled to his full height and pointed a clawed finger at the human. The evidence is overwhelming, Vorthus declared. Human vessels have been detected in restricted space. Human scientists have been accessing classified research databases. And just last month, a human colony ship destroyed a Dramok patrol vessel without provocation. Cole's expression did not change, but something flickered in his eyes. The punishment for these crimes, Navara announced, is species-wide containment. Earth will be sealed behind a dimensional barrier. Your colony worlds will be evacuated. Your people will be returned to pre-space flight capability. Permanently. The chamber erupted in approval. Species that had never agreed on anything cheered together. The humans would finally be put in their place. High Chancellor Vorthus raised his arms for silence. I call for an immediate vote. There is no need for further discussion. Humanity has proven itself unworthy of galactic civilization. 1,200 voices shouted their agreement. Ambassador David Cole smiled. It was a small smile. Controlled, but in that smile, something in the chamber shifted. The humming of the Mordrith crystals stuttered. The clicking of the Velshi stopped entirely. High Arbiter, Cole said, his voice calm and clear, before you proceed with this vote, I believe the Council deserves to understand what they are truly voting for. Navara's geometric form flickered with irritation. You will have your opportunity to speak in defense, human. After the formal charges are. I am not speaking in defense, Cole interrupted. The chamber fell absolutely silent. No one had ever interrupted the High Arbiter. In 40,000 years of Council history, it had simply never happened. Cole reached into his diplomatic pouch and produced a small device no larger than his thumb. A holographic projector. You accuse us of developing forbidden technology, he said. You are correct. We did. But not the technology you think. The projection activated, filling the center of the chamber with an image that made even the High Arbiter recoil. In shock, it was a map of the galaxy. But the colors were wrong. Where the Council's unified territory should have been marked in gold, there were fractures, cracks. Entire sectors highlighted in red and blue, and colors that had no names in any known language. "What is this?" Navarra demanded. "This is what happens when you try to contain humanity," Cole replied. "This is not a threat. This is a prediction. A mathematical certainty." He turned slowly, addressing every tier of the chamber. "For 60 years, we served this council faithfully. We patrolled your dangerous sectors. We died in your wars. We maintained the hyperspace lanes that connect your 12,000 worlds. And in return, you gave us the worst trade routes, the least representation, and the constant reminder that we would never truly belong." He paused, letting the silence stretch. 3 months ago, a Dramok warship destroyed a human transport carrying 42,000 civilians, children, families. The council ruled it an accident. No investigation, no justice, just another dead human. High Chancellor Vorthus hissed. "An unfortunate incident. These things happen in space. They happen because you allow them to happen." Cole's voice hardened. "That transport carried my wife, my daughter, 7 years old. She was afraid of the dark, Chancellor, and you left her to die in the cold emptiness between stars." The chamber was completely silent now. "We came here today not to beg for mercy," Cole continued. "We came to offer you one chance to do something this council has never done in its 40,000-year history." He looked directly at Vorthus. "We came to let you apologize." Vorthus laughed, a cold and cruel sound. "Apologize? To humans? You are insects. You are nothing. Vote, vote now." The vote happened in seconds. 1,400 species chose humanity's destruction. Cole received the result on his communication device. He looked at it for a long moment, then nodded once. "Then we are no longer members of this body," he said quietly. "Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. All treaties are void. All agreements are cancelled." Vorthus sneered. "Empty words. You cannot survive without us. You cannot trade. You cannot travel. You cannot—" "The hyperspace lanes," Cole said, "were built by human engineers. Every major route in this galaxy passes through technology we created and maintained for 60 years. He held up his communication device. 12 minutes ago, Admiral Cross activated Operation Silent Dawn. The first alarm sounded somewhere in the station dot, then another, then 100 more. What have you done?" Navarra demanded. "We turned off the lights," Cole said simply. "Every hyperspace lane in Council space is now dark. Your ships are stranded. Your worlds are isolated. Your precious Council is alone." He activated a personal teleportation device on his wrist. Another technology that should not have existed. Goodbye. He vanished in a flash of blue light. Exactly 17 minutes later, the Judgment Chamber's own systems began to fail. The floating platforms shuddered. The atmospheric pods flickered. And High Chancellor Vorthus, staring at the map still hovering in the center of the chamber, finally understood what humanity had done. They had not declared war. They had simply walked away. And in doing so, they had broken the galaxy. Captain Marcus Webb watched the chaos unfold from the bridge of the Earth vessel horizon, positioned exactly 4 light years outside Galactic Council space. Lane 7 just went dark. "Captain," his navigation officer reported, her voice tight with tension. "That is the primary trade route between the Morgoth crystal worlds and the Velshi hive colonies." Webb nodded slowly. On his view screen, he could see the cascade effect beginning. Ships that had been traveling through hyperspace were violently ejected into normal space, their engines screaming with stress. Emergency beacons activated by the thousands, filling the communication channels with desperate cries for help. How many ships are stranded? Webb asked. Preliminary scans show over 12,000 vessels, sir. Most are civilian. Cargo ships, passenger transports, medical supply convoys. The officer paused. Sir, without hyperspace, some of those ships only have enough fuel to survive for a few days. Webb closed his eyes. This was the part of the plan he had dreaded most. The Council had voted to destroy humanity, yes. Their governments had treated humans as lesser beings for 60 years. But the civilians on those ships had nothing to do with political decisions. Launch all search and rescue craft, he ordered. His first officer turned sharply. Captain? Command specifically ordered us to maintain distance from Council space. We are not supposed to. I know what Command ordered. Webb opened his eyes. But those are civilians dying out there. Families. Children. We are not monsters, Lieutenant. We are humans. And humans do not let innocent people die, even if their governments are our enemies. The bridge crew exchanged uncertain glances. Then, one by one, they turned back to their stations and began launching rescue operations. Over the next 2 weeks, the Horizon and her sister ships saved 400,000 alien lives. They pulled Mordrith crystals from freezing cargo holds. They rescued Velshi egg carriers from failing life support systems. They gave their own food, their own water, their own medical supplies to beings whose species had cheered for humanity's destruction. Just days before, word spread quickly through the broken galaxy. On the Council Capital Station, High Arbiter Navarra struggled to maintain order. As system after system failed. Without human maintenance crews, the station's ancient technology began to malfunction in ways no one understood. Without human navigators, the few remaining short-range hyperspace routes became deadly dangerous. Without human diplomats who had served as neutral mediators for decades, old conflicts between species began to surface. The Mordrith accused the Velshi of hoarding resources. The Velshi accused the Dramok of sabotaging relief efforts. The Dramok accused everyone of conspiracy against them. In his private chambers, High Chancellor Vorthis paced back and forth, his scales shifting through angry shades of red and black. This is temporary, he hissed to his advisors. The humans cannot maintain this blockade forever. They need trade. They need resources. They will come crawling back within months. His chief scientist, a younger Dramok named Tesok, cleared his throat nervously. High Chancellor, our analysis suggests otherwise. The humans have been preparing for this moment for at least 5 years. They have established independent trade networks with species outside Council space. They have stockpiled resources. They have built manufacturing facilities on their colony worlds. Impossible. We would have noticed. We did notice, Chancellor. Several times. But your office classified all reports of human development as low priority. You said they were too primitive to pose a threat. Vorthis whirled on his scientist, fangs bared. For a moment, Tesok was certain he would be killed where he stood. Then the Chancellor's communication device beeped. What is it? Vorthis demanded. High Chancellor, a trembling voice reported, we have received word from our colonies in the Outer Rim. Human rescue ships have been saving our civilians. Thousands of Dramok citizens owe their lives to human compassion. Vorthis's scales went pale. What? The humans are not attacking anyone, Chancellor. They are saving everyone. Our people. The Mordrith. The Velshi. Anyone who needs help. The voice paused. Public opinion is shifting rapidly. Our citizens are asking why we voted to destroy a species that risks their own lives to save strangers. The communication ended. VORT has stood in silence for a moment. Then he began to laugh, a cold and bitter sound. Clever, he admitted. Very clever. They make themselves look like heroes while we look like villains. He turned to Tessoc. Contact our allies in the Council. We are forming a hunting fleet. If the humans will not restore the hyperspace lanes voluntarily, we will force them. Chancellor, given the current political situation, that might not be. Do it now. Far away on Earth itself, Ambassador David Cole stood in a classified research facility, staring at a holographic display that made his blood run cold. Dr. Lena Harris, the scientist who had developed the technology to disable the hyperspace lanes, pointed to a section of the display with a trembling finger. This was not supposed to happen, she said quietly. The lane collapse should have been clean, temporary, reversible. What am I looking at, Doctor? A rift. Harris took a deep breath. When we collapsed the first hyperspace lane, we created a tear in the fabric of space-time itself. The tear is not closing, Ambassador. It is growing. And it is growing faster than our models predicted. Cole felt the weight of the galaxy settle on his shoulders. What happens if it keeps growing? Harris was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. If the rift continues to expand at its current rate, it will eventually destabilize the entire hyperspace network. Every lane in the galaxy will collapse. Travel between star systems will become impossible. How long? 18 months. Maybe less. Cole stared at the growing rift on the display. He thought about his wife and daughter, gone forever in the cold darkness between stars. He thought about the 42,000 civilians who died because the Council considered human lives worthless. He thought about the 400,000 alien lives that human ships had saved in the past 2 weeks. Does anyone else know about this? He asked. Only us. And Admiral Cross. She is recommending we keep it classified until we find a solution. Cole nodded slowly. Then we need to find a solution. Fast. 3 days later, a Mordrith representative named Calax arrived on the horizon, requesting asylum. He claimed to have information about a secret Dramok plan. Information that could change everything. Captain Webb looked at the crystal being standing in his cargo bay, surrounded by armed human guards. The Mordrith's internal light pulsed with colors that Webb's translator identified as fear, hope, and desperate determination. You saved my family, Calax said. My children were on a transport ship that your people rescued. I owe you a debt that I can never repay. We did not save your family to collect debts, Webb replied. We saved them because it was the right thing to do. Calax's light shifted to something Webb had never seen before. Something like wonder. That, the Mordrith said, is exactly why I'm here. The galaxy needs to know the truth about what the Dramok have done, what they are planning to do. His light darkened. And what is coming for us all if we do not stop fighting each other very soon? Webb looked at the alien for a long moment. Then he ordered his guards to stand down. Tell me everything, he said. Calax the Mordrith had never seen a human world before. As his shuttle descended through the clouds above New Geneva, the capital of humanity's largest colony, he found himself pressing against the viewport, like a child. Green. Everything was so impossibly green. The forest stretched to the horizon, broken only by gleaming cities that rose from the landscape like crystals growing from soil. Rivers wound through valleys that sparkled in the yellow sunlight. And everywhere, there were humans, walking through parks, playing with their young, living their lives as if the galaxy was not falling apart around them. It is beautiful, Calax said, his internal light pulsing with colors of wonder. Admiral Helena Cross, the woman who had commanded the hyperspace shutdown, sat across from him in the shuttle. Her face was hard, her eyes cold. Calax knew that her family had died in the transport attack 3 months ago. He knew she had every reason to hate him and his kind, but she had agreed to meet with him anyway. "You said you have information," Cross said flatly. "Information about the Dramok. Talk." Kallax turned away from the viewport. For 60 years, the Dramok have been working to destroy humanity. Not openly, not honestly. They have used lies and manipulation and carefully planned accidents to weaken your species at every opportunity. We suspected as much. You do not understand, Admiral. The transport that killed your family was not an accident. It was the 47th deliberate attack on human civilians orchestrated by High Chancellor Vorthus personally. Cross went very still. 47th? I have the records. Communication logs. Mission orders. Everything. Kallax's light shifted to deep blue, the Mordrith color of shame. My species knew. We did nothing. For decades, we watched the Dramok murder your people, and we said nothing because it was convenient. Because humans did the work we did not want to do. Patrolled the dangerous sectors. Maintained the hyperspace lanes. Died in the wars we started. Cross's hands were clenched so tightly that her knuckles had gone white. Why are you telling me this now? Because my children are alive because of human compassion. Because your Captain Webb risked his life to save beings who voted for your destruction. Because I finally understand that we were wrong. Kallax moved closer, his crystalline form catching the light. And because Vorthus is not finished. He is building a hunting fleet. 17 species have contributed warships. Their target is not just your military, Admiral. It is Earth itself. Cross absorbed this information in silence. Then she stood and walked to the shuttle's communication console. "Ambassador Cole," she said, "we need to talk. Now." The meeting took place in a secure facility beneath New Geneva's Capitol building. Ambassador Cole, Admiral Cross, Captain Webb, and Dr. Harris sat on one side of the table. Kallax stood on the other, his light projecting holographic images as he spoke. "The Dramok hunting fleet will launch in approximately 3 weeks," Kallax explained. 140 warships from 17 species. Their official mission is to capture human technology and force the restoration of the hyperspace lanes. Their actual mission is extermination. How do you know this? Cole asked. Because I served on the Council's Intelligence Committee for 30 years. I wrote some of these plans myself. Kallax's light flickered with shame again. Before I understood what we were truly doing. Dr. Harris leaned forward. "Ambassador, there is something else we need to discuss. Something I discovered in my research." Cole nodded. "Tell them." Harris activated her own holographic display. The image showed the rift they had accidentally created, but now it was larger. Much larger. "The rift is expanding faster than we predicted," Harris said. "But that is not the worst part. We have been analyzing the energy signatures coming from inside the tier, and we found something." "Found what?" Cross demanded. "A signal. A pattern. Something that suggests the rift is not just empty space." Harris paused, her face pale. "There is something on the other side. Something ancient. And I think our hyperspace collapse woke it up." The room fell silent. Kallax's internal light went completely dark, something Captain Webb had never seen a Morbith do before. The consuming silence, Kallax whispered, "It cannot be. You know what this is?" Cole asked sharply. "Every species in the galaxy knows the legend, Ambassador. 40,000 years ago, before the Council existed, before any of our civilizations achieved spaceflight, something emerged from the void between dimensions. It consumed entire star systems. It devoured worlds. It fed on reality itself." Kallax's voice was barely audible. "The ancient species who came before us sealed it away. They built the hyperspace network not just for travel, but as a cage. A prison. And we broke the bars Harris said quietly. Cole closed his eyes. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Cross stood up, her face set with determination. We need allies. Real allies. Not species who will turn on us the moment it is convenient. The Mordrith will stand with you, Kallax said immediately. I cannot speak for my government, but I can speak for millions of citizens who owe their lives to human rescue ships. When they learn the truth about the Dronok, they will demand action. That is not enough, Cole said. We need military power. We need resources. We need species who can help us fight the hunting fleet and deal with whatever is coming through that rift. Captain Webb cleared his throat. There might be a way. Everyone turned to look at him. The Velshi Hive Mother contacted me yesterday, Webb explained. Apparently, our rescue of her species' egg carriers created quite an impression. She has requested a personal meeting with a human representative. Someone who saved her people directly. What kind of meeting? Cross asked. She did not say. But the Velshi are the oldest living species in the galaxy. They were there when the ancient civilization sealed away the consuming silence. If anyone knows how to stop it, they do. Cole looked at Webb for a long moment. You saved those eggs. She wants to meet you. Sir, I am a ship captain, not a diplomat. Sometimes the best diplomacy is simply being a good person, Captain. Cole stood and extended his hand. You leave tomorrow. Bring Representative Kallax with you. Show the Velshi that humans and Mordrith can work together. Show them that the old hatreds do not have to define us. Webb shook the ambassador's hand, feeling the weight of the galaxy settling on his shoulders. 12 hours later, the Horizon set course for the Velshi Hive world, carrying humanity's hopes into the unknown. Behind them, on the edge of Council space, the rift continued to grow. And deep within its swirling darkness, something ancient stirred, something hungry, something that had waited 40,000 years for this moment. And now, finally, it was almost free. The Velshi Hive world was unlike anything Captain Webb had ever seen. The entire planet was covered in structures that resembled giant honeycombs, each cell large enough to hold a city. Billions of Velshi moved through the endless corridors, their insectoid bodies clicking in perfect rhythm, their movements synchronized in ways that suggested a single vast intelligence. The Hive Mother's chamber sat at the center of the planet, a spherical room 3 kilometers across. Thousands of Velshi attendants lined the walls, their compound eyes reflecting Webb's image 1,000,000 times over. And in the center, resting on a throne of living organic material, sat the oldest being in the galaxy. The Hive Mother was enormous. Her body stretched 50 meters from end to end, her carapace covered in patterns that seemed to shift and change as Webb watched. She was older than human civilization, older than most stars in this region of space. You saved our eggs, she said, her voice resonating through the chamber like a symphony. You risked your life for the future of our species. Why? Webb stood alone before her, feeling very small and very human. Kallax waited outside the chamber. The Velshi had demanded a private audience. Because they were in danger, Webb answered simply. Because we could help. Many species could have helped. None did. Only humans. The Hive Mother's massive head tilted slightly. Your species confuses us, Captain. You are so young, so fragile. Your individual lives are barely a flicker compared to our centuries. Yet you throw those lives away for strangers, for enemies, for beings who have never shown you kindness. With respect, Hive Mother, that is exactly why we do it. Because someone has to be kind first. Someone has to break the cycle. The Hive Mother was silent for a long moment. Then she made a sound that Webb's translator could not interpret. Around the chamber, thousands of Velshi attendants echoed the sound. We were there, the Hive Mother said finally. when the consuming silence was sealed away. We remember. The ancient species sacrificed everything to build that cage. Entire civilizations gave their lives. And now it is breaking free because the galaxy forgot why the cage existed in the first place. Webb felt his heart hammering in his chest. Can it be stopped? Perhaps. The seal can be repaired. But it requires knowledge that no single species possesses anymore. It requires cooperation, trust, the very things the Galactic Council has spent 40,000 years destroying. She rose from her throne, her massive form moving with surprising grace. Around her, the attendants parted like waves. The Velshi will ally with humanity. Captain Marcus Webb, we will share our knowledge of the ancient seal. We will fight beside you against those who threaten your world. Her compound eyes seemed to look straight into his soul. But know this, the seal requires a sacrifice. Someone must enter the rift and collapse it from within. Someone must be willing to give everything. Before Webb could respond, his communication device screamed with emergency alerts. Captain! His first officer's voice was frantic. The Dramok hunting fleet has launched early. They are bypassing our defensive lines. They are heading directly for Earth. Webb felt the blood drain from his face. The hunting fleet was not supposed to launch for another 2 weeks. They were not ready. How long until they reach Earth? 72 hours, sir. The Hive Mother's voice cut through the chaos. Go, save your homeworld. The Velshi fleet will follow within 6 hours. Webb ran. The Battle of the Arcturus Line was the largest space engagement in human history. Admiral Cross commanded a defense fleet of 87 vessels against 140 enemy warships. She was outnumbered, outgunned, fighting against species that had been waging interstellar war since before humans discovered fire. She won anyway. Human ships were faster, more maneuverable, designed by engineers who understood that quantity could never replace quality. Cross used the asteroid field at Arcturus Prime as a weapon, drawing enemy vessels into kill zones where their numerical advantage meant nothing. She destroyed 60% of the hunting fleet in the first engagement. But the victory came at a terrible cost. 43 human ships were lost. 12,000 men and women died in the cold darkness between stars. And still, 46 enemy vessels continued toward Earth. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, we have incoming vessels from the outer system. Velshi's signatures. And something else. Something we have never seen before. Cross looked at her sensors and felt something she had not felt in months. Hope. The Velshi fleet numbered 120 warships. Each one ancient beyond measure. Each one armed with weapons that predated the Council itself. Beside them flew Mordrith crystal cruisers and ships from 12. Other species who had been inspired by human compassion to stand against Dramok tyranny. But that was not what made. Cross's eyes widened. Leading. The Allied fleet was the horizon, Captain Webb's ship. And behind it, slowly emerging from hyperspace, was something impossible. A ship made of pure light. A vessel constructed by the ancient civilizations that had sealed away the consuming silence 40,000 years ago. A relic that the Velshi had kept hidden for millennia, waiting for a species worthy of using it. The Dramok hunting fleet, seeing the forces arrayed against them, immediately began signaling surrender, all except one ship. High Chancellor Vorthas's personal flagship continued its course toward Earth, weapons fully charged, broadcasting a message on all frequencies. You may have won this battle, Vorthas hissed, but you have already lost the war. Look to the stars, humans. Look and see what your arrogance has unleashed. Cross turned her sensors toward the coordinates Vorthas indicated. The rift had torn open completely. And something was coming through. It was not a ship. It was not a creature. It was an absence, a void in the shape of hunger. Stars disappeared as it passed. Space itself seemed to scream. The consuming silence had awakened, and it was heading directly for the heart of the galaxy. On the bridge of the horizon, Captain Webb received a message from Ambassador Cole. "The ancient ship the Velshi provided can seal the rift," Cole said, his voice heavy. "But someone has to pilot it into the heart of the silence. Someone has to stay behind." Webb looked at the impossible horror on his view screen. He thought about his crew, his family back on Earth, the life he had always assumed he would live. Then he thought about the 40,000 alien eggs he had saved, about the Mordrith children playing on human colony worlds, about the millions of lives that would end if the silence reached inhabited space. "I volunteer," he said. Dr. Harris's voice cut in. "Captain, wait. The seal requires more than just a pilot. It requires someone who understands the mathematics of hyperspace at an intuitive level. Someone who can perform calculations that would take a computer hours in just seconds." "Who?" "Me." Harris's voice was calm, peaceful. "I built the technology that caused this. It is only right that I be the one to fix it." Webb started to argue, but Harris had already activated the teleportation device. She materialized on the ancient ship's bridge, alone except for the ghosts of civilizations long dead. "Take care of them, Captain," she said. "Take care of all of them." The communication ended, and the ancient ship began its final journey into the heart of darkness. Earth had never been attacked before. In all of human history, through all the wars and conflicts and struggles that had shaped their civilization, the homeworld had remained safe, protected, sacred. That changed when High Chancellor Vorthus's flagship descended through the atmosphere. Ambassador David Cole watched from the emergency bunker beneath New Geneva as the first plasma bombardment struck the ocean. A column of steam rose into the sky, visible from 1,000 kilometers away. The message was clear. Vorthus did not care about winning anymore. He only cared about making humanity suffer. "Ambassador," his aide reported, voice shaking, "casualties are already in the millions. He is targeting civilian centers, cities, schools. There is no military objective. This is pure revenge." Cole closed his eyes. He thought about his wife, his daughter, the 42,000 souls who had died because the galaxy considered human lives worthless. And he thought about the 400,000 aliens that human ships had saved, about the Velshi fleet fighting beside them, about the Mordrith and a dozen other species who had finally seen the truth. He opened his eyes. "Open a channel," he said. "All frequencies. Every species. Every world." When the channel opened, Cole spoke not as a diplomat, not as an ambassador. He spoke as a human being pushed beyond the limits of patience. "This is David Cole of Earth. Today, High Chancellor Vorthus murders our children, our families. He burns our world because we dared to ask for dignity. And still, we offer you a choice." His voice hardened. "Help us seal the consuming silence, and we will share the technology to rebuild the hyperspace network. Better, faster, available to all, not just the privileged few. Continue to stand with Vorthus and watch the silence devour everything you love." He paused. "You have 1 hour. Choose wisely." In high orbit, Admiral Cross received word that 23 more species had joined the alliance. The Dramok themselves were fracturing, officers refusing to follow Vorthus's orders, ships defecting to the human side. "The tide is turning," her tactical officer reported. "But Vorthus is still firing on the planet. Casualties are approaching 50 million. Cross gripped her command chair. Every instinct screamed at her to destroy Vorthus's ship, to end him the way he had ended her family. But she was not Vorthus. She was human. "All ships," she ordered, "target the Chancellor's weapons systems only. Disable his ship. I want him alive for trial. Admiral? He does not get to die a martyr. He does not get to become a symbol for hatred. He gets to stand in a courtroom and explain why he murdered millions of innocent people. Cross's voice was cold as ice. He gets to watch his empire crumble. And then he gets to spend the rest of his very long life in a cell, knowing that everything he built was destroyed by the species he considered worthless. The Allied fleet opened fire. Vorthos's flagship was disabled in 17 minutes. When human Marines breached his bridge, they found him screaming orders at officers who had already surrendered. He fought like an animal, clawing and biting, until they finally restrained him. You cannot win, he hissed as they dragged him away. The silence will consume you all. And when it does, my people will rise from the ashes too. Your people have already surrendered, Chancellor, the Marine commander said calmly. The Dramok Collective has formally dissolved. Your species is requesting entry into the new alliance. He smiled slightly. They asked us to tell you that they are ashamed, that they should have stopped you decades ago. Vorthos's screams echoed through the corridor as they took him to his cell. Far from the battle, in the space between dimensions, Dr. Lena Harris guided her ancient ship toward the heart of the consuming silence. The entity was even more terrifying up close. It was not darkness. It was the absence of existence itself. Looking at it hurt in ways that had nothing to do with physical pain. Horizon, do you copy? She transmitted. Captain Webb's voice came back, barely audible through the dimensional interference. We copy, Doctor. Are you certain about this? Someone has to collapse the seal from inside. The math does not work any other way. Harris took a deep breath. Besides, I started this. I created the technology that tore open the rift. It is only right that I be the one to close it. Doctor, take care of them, Marcus. Take care of all of them. Show the galaxy what humanity really is. She activated the seal protocols. The ancient ship began to glow, equations of pure light spiraling around its hull. The consuming silence screamed, a sound that resonated across dimensions, heard by every psychically sensitive species in the galaxy. Then the rift collapsed. Harris expected oblivion. She expected to simply cease to exist, her consciousness erased by the dimensional implosion. Instead, she found herself floating in a space that was not space, surrounded by light that was not light. And somehow, impossibly, still aware, the last thing she saw before the seal completed was the galaxy itself, spread out beneath her like a jewel. So many worlds, so many lives. All of them safe now. All of them worth dying for. 1 year later, the reformed galactic government met for the first time in the ruins of the old council chambers. It was no longer called the Galactic Council. That name carried too much shame. The new organization was the Galactic Cooperative, and its founding principle was simple. Every species was equal. Every voice mattered. Ambassador David Cole served as the first human high arbiter. He had not wanted the position, but the representatives of over 1,000 species had insisted. Only a human, they argued, could be trusted to build something new from the ashes of the old. We have accomplished much this year, Cole said, addressing the assembly. The hyperspace network has been restored. Trade routes have reopened. The species who fought against us have been welcomed back into the community of worlds, because humanity does not believe in eternal punishment. He paused, looking around the chamber. Where there had once been suspicion and hatred, he now saw hope, curiosity, even something approaching friendship. But we have much more work to do. The prejudices of 40,000 years will not disappear overnight. There will be conflicts, disagreements, moments when it seems easier to return to the old ways. He straightened his shoulders. In those moments, remember what we learned. Remember that compassion is not weakness, that mercy is not surrender, that the measure of a civilization is not how it treats its friends, but how it treats its enemies. The chamber was silent. Then, slowly, 1,400 species rose to their feet and applauded Dot in a quiet corner of human space. The Lena Harris Memorial Research Station orbited the sealed rift. Scientists from 100 worlds worked together to monitor the ancient prison, ensuring that the consuming silence would never escape again. Captain Webb visited the station often. He would stand at the observation window for hours, staring at the faint shimmer where the rift had been. His first officer thought he was mourning. The other crew members thought he was being sentimental. They did not know about the signal. 3 months after the seal was completed, the station's monitoring systems detected an impossible transmission, a pattern of pure mathematics, repeating endlessly from the space between dimensions. Webb had analyzed the pattern himself, run it through every translator they had, and finally he had understood. It was not random noise. It was not an echo. It was a message. 3 simple words, encoded in the universal language of mathematics. I am here. Webb never told anyone about the signal, never reported it to the authorities. He simply visited the station every few weeks, stood at the window, and remembered the woman who had saved the galaxy. And somewhere, in a space that was not space, surrounded by light that was not light, Dr. Lena Harris waited. She did not know how long she had been there. Time did not work the same way in the void between dimensions. But she was still conscious, still thinking, still, somehow, impossibly, alive. And she was not alone. The entities that inhabited this space were ancient beyond comprehension. They were the builders of the original seal, the architects of the hyperspace network, the civilization that had sacrificed everything to protect the galaxy from the consuming silence. They had been waiting for 40,000 years for someone worthy to join them. Someone who understood that true strength was not power. It was compassion, sacrifice, love, someone human. Harris smiled as the ancient minds welcomed her into their fold. She had work to do. The seal needed constant attention. The galaxy needed protection. And now she had all the time in the universe to provide it. From her place between dimensions, she watched the galaxy heal, watched humans and aliens learn to trust each other, watched the old hatreds slowly fade, and she knew, with absolute certainty, that everything they had sacrificed was worth it. The galaxy was finally at peace. And humanity had led the way home.